This is CBC Here and Now.
Posing as a nurse, moving from one long-term care home to another, and getting caught, where she worked before being outed by Central Health.
Professors are heading for a strike vote.
We want like a supermajority, like 2/3. And trust me, we will get more than that vote.
I'll tell you more about stalled negotiations here at Memorial University, coming up on Here and Now.
For passengers, flights, routes, and airlines, could they be coming back to the St. John's International Airport in 2023?
The gap between pre-pandemic and current is going to take a while to recover from.
That story ahead on Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We'll get to those stories shortly, but we begin with the province's latest update on COVID numbers. Over the past 2 weeks, 35 people have been hospitalized because of the virus. The government released these new numbers today. 5 people have been in the ICU. In the past 2 weeks, 4 people have died of the disease. The province is now reporting data every 2 weeks. And we have more information tonight on the imposter nurse who was outed by Central Health late last month. Lisa Driscoll made national headlines for working without a license at a long-term care home in Gander. This after being convicted and sent to prison in relation to the death of her young son. Now, it's a troubling and complex story, and Terry Roberts joins us now to try to make some sense of it. Terry.
Yeah, well, Carolyn, look, this seems to get more unbelievable by the day, really. It turns out Lisa Driscoll, also known as Lisa Strickland, well, she worked without any credentials at a well-known long-term care facility in St. John's. And that one licensing board in this province was issuing warnings last summer, before Lisa Driscoll ever landed a job in Gander. Now, you recall Driscoll used the name and registration number of a fully certified RN, information that's easily available online, to get a job with a private agency that hires travel nurses. Now, that agency didn't do a thorough vet of Driscoll's identity and hired her. Driscoll worked more than 24 shifts as an RN at Lakeside between August and November before she was exposed. She was never trained as an RN, but did work as a practical nurse in Ontario. Central Health says there was no harm done to residents during Driscoll's time at Lakeside. Now we're finding out there's much more to this story. Today, we got our hands on this. It's a letter from Barry Parsons of Chancellor Park in St. John's to residents of this well-known long-term care home and their families. Parsons confirms Driscoll worked as an LPN at Chancellor Park for months, once again without the proper credentials. Driscoll was only exposed thanks to the College of Licensed Practical Nurses, who received a call from another employer, tipping them off about an employment application. The college investigated and found Driscoll was working at Chancellor Park, that she wasn't registered, that she once again used the license number of a nurse with a similar name. Here's Wanda Wadman.
It's very disturbing, obviously, that someone is able to do that, to work as a nurse without being registered or licensed to practice.
Okay, so Terry, walk us through what happened at the care home in St. John's once the college knew about Driscoll.
Yeah, well, Wanda Wadman, well, she personally contacted Chancellor Park on June 6th. Lisa Driscoll, well, she was promptly fired. Both Chancellor Park and the College of Practical Nurses notified the RNC. But that's not all. The college hand-delivered a letter to Lisa Driscoll in late July, a letter Driscoll signed for, telling her to cease and desist from working without a license. The college also issued warnings to potential employers, advising that a woman was passing herself off as an LPN, and that they should carefully screen all applications. But it wasn't enough. Just 2 months later, in August, Lisa Driscoll went to work in Gander, not as an LPN, but as an RN. And Wadman tells me the College of LPNs has been contacted by 3 other employers. All of them received applications for work from Lisa Driscoll, but she was exposed as a fake nurse during the vetting process.
Wow, so what is Chancellor Park saying about this?
Yeah, well, I've not been able to reach owner Barry Parsons, but this letter speaks volumes. An internal review has been completed, and he says no residents were harmed. Parsons writes, "We regret that this happened in our facility, even with the most stringent checks and balances. We are confident that we have augmented all procedures to ensure this would never happen again." Now, we reached out to the RNC today, but no one was available to talk about this. The RCMP is also investigating and say no charges have been laid. As for Lisa Driscoll, we haven't been able to reach her. Carolyn?
Thanks so much, Terry. There's a lot more to this story as well, and you can read about it on our website, cbc.ca/nl. Well, RCMP on the Avalon arrested 6 people for impaired driving last week. It happened at police traffic stops on December 30th and the 31st. 2 men in Holyrood tested positive for cannabis on Friday. A suspended driver was also arrested after testing positive for cannabis on Pitts Memorial Drive in St. John's. Now, the following day, 3 more drivers in Holyrood and Bay Bulls were arrested for drug and alcohol impairment. In some cases, the drivers were sent to hospital where a blood sample was taken. Police say those results will determine if impaired driving charges are appropriate. Well, he was once named Police Officer of the Year. Now, Paul Didham is suing for constructive dismissal from the force. Through his work as a traffic cop, Didham was a public face for the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, but a scandal eventually led to him leaving. Here now's Ariana Kelland reports.
In 2016, Paul Didham was at the peak of his career, seen here being awarded Police Officer of the Year. But this statement of claim alleges that his rise in the ranks was cut short, and he blames former Chief Joe Boland. Didham says he was made acting inspector in 2018, but was undermined by Boland, who he says interfered in his work. He says Boland held the potential promotion to make the job permanent over his head. The statement of claim shows the next several years were messy, with him filing a respectful workplace complaint against Boland, Deputy Chief Paul Woodruff, and Superintendent Ed Oates, but says it was never completed. In April of 2020, Didham was placed under investigation by the RCMP alongside then Service NL Minister Sherry Gambin-Walsh. The police were investigating breach of trust by a public official after Gambin-Walsh allegedly leaked details of pending RNC promotions to Didham. No criminal charges were laid against him or Gambin-Walsh, though she was kicked out of the Liberal cabinet. Didham says Boland then initiated an internal investigation into that same case, hiring 2 longtime friends and retired RNC officers to investigate. In late 2020, the 2 former officers laid 24 internal charges, with Boland saying he intended to suspend Didham without pay. Didham says he had no other choice but to quit because his pension and mental health were at stake. He's seeking an undisclosed amount and says he suffered mental distress and public humiliation. The RNC is not commenting today. Didham was an officer with the force for more than 20 years. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
Coming up, I'm going to introduce you to 3 of some of the newest residents of our province. You got it. 1, 2, 3.
It's a pretty nice evening out there. We take a live look outside the studios there. Dry pavement at the moment, currently sitting around 2 degrees, but that sunset today at 4:23 p.m. today. Now, I know the days are getting longer, but it's going to be a while. But by the time we get through to a month, we're already going to see those 5 p.m. sunsets return. And then eventually, as daylight saving time returns, we'll be at 7 p.m. sunsets, which is nice. So right now, we're currently gaining about 1 minute and 9 seconds of daylight each day. That is a different story for Labrador, especially in the west. We're looking at sunsets by the time we get to February 1st at 5:12, and then eventually 7:25. Right now, gaining 1 minute and 29 seconds. But by the time we get into February and March, you'll be gaining between 3 and 4 minutes a day. So I'm sure that is definitely welcome. But right now we are very much talking about winter and winter weather, cold temperatures. They're going to sink south tonight. I'll get into the details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, as Memorial University students prepare to return to class tomorrow, their professors' contract negotiations still appear to be stalled. MUN profs have been without contracts for years, and their union expects their strong support for a strike. Here now's Mark Quinn has more.
The president of MUN's Faculty Association is calling on the province and the university to act.
We didn't have a raise for 6 years. We are losing doctors in this province. Next, we will be losing professors.
Contract talks for about 800 professors and librarians here broke off in late December, and those talks have been stalled since then. Hossein wants negotiations to restart.
We need that middle meeting. They propose something, we propose something. Let's meet in the middle. But they're like my way or highway. That's not how you do it.
The union is asking for 3 things: more transparency, better pay for contract instructors, and wage increases for professors and librarians, with a retroactive 8% increase in the first year of their contract.
And the only sticking point is 2022. Because if you take a 4-year window, year 2, 3, and 4, we are in agreement. They are saying 2% per year. We are saying, okay, 2% per year. But for 2022, our logic is, since we did not get a raise for so long, at least match the inflation of the year 2022.
The university says its hands are tied. It has no money for salary increases and can only offer MUNFA members what the province will give it.
Well, obviously, I don't think we're being inflexible, but we do have constraints, and we're trying to get as far as we can to meet the request of MUNFA.
The union doesn't accept that MUN has no money in its budget beyond what it's offering, and doesn't accept that the province can't give the university more money for MUNFA members.
Even if what we are asking, if they listen to us 100%, and normally negotiations are not that, you meet in the middle. Everything they listen to us. That's 0.03% of Newfoundland's GDP.
For students who've already had their lives turned upside down by the pandemic, it's more stress and uncertainty.
No one wants to strike. It actually will end up costing both sides, or all sides, more money than anyone can really afford. I think it's in all of our best interest, and especially that of the students, to avoid a strike.
I know it will be disruptions. Some students are in the last term and so on and so forth. Like, your professors are with you. Once the strike is over, hopefully we won't go for strike. We will work with you guys.
Professors are planning to hold a strike vote next week, and they say if there is a strike, it won't happen before the 3rd week of January. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, passenger traffic at the International Airport in St. John's is back to nearly 3/4 of pre-pandemic levels last year. But the airport authority says a full recovery likely won't happen this year. The CBC's Heather Gillis has that story.
Passengers were departing and arriving from Hamilton on Swoop at the St. John's Airport this morning. It's one of 2 new low-cost carriers that started flying to and from the airport in 2022. Attracting more carriers, routes, and flights is on the airport's agenda this year. But that growth is still turbulent, since WestJet is stopping service from St. John's to Halifax next week, says the airport authority's Lisa Bragg.
I mean, that's a key route that we're talking to all available airlines about, because we want them to know that the opportunity exists for more capacity.
Passenger traffic is slowly rebounding from pandemic lows. In 2019, about 1.4 million people passed through the airport, dropping drastically in 2020 and 21, but inching higher last year.
We are just waiting on our final passenger numbers for December, but we do expect to finish at about 73% of our pre-pandemic numbers for 2022.
Bragg is optimistic about growth here at the St. John's International Airport in 2023. However, she believes things won't make a full recovery this year.
The gap between pre-pandemic and current is going to take a while to recover from, and I think we need some time in 2023 to see what fleshes out before we can say that one with any accuracy.
One route that's still missing is a direct flight to Europe. St. John's has a history of those flights dating back decades, but they ended in 2019. As for attracting the route again, Bragg says that too will take time.
You know, Air Canada is struggling on a pilot side, and they're building things back in steps. And there's step processes to do so in larger hubs first.
St. John's continues to have the second highest airport improvement fee in the country, $42 on every departing passenger's ticket. But Bragg doesn't believe that will hamper growth.
It's not an impediment to our relationships with airlines. They know that the cost of doing business in St. John's is different.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, one new child may be overwhelming for parents, but how about 3? A family with triplets in Labrador is learning about the challenges. This Christmas, they received some support from another set of triplets. Here Now's Daryl Din brings us their story.
I was like 12 weeks. Yeah, I was going for a normal appointment and they did an ultrasound and found triplets.
That's when Michelle Newman found out she was going from being a mother of 1 boy to 4 boys.
Shock. I was by myself. My husband was sleeping for night shift, so it was a lot to take in for one person.
It was also a lot for the healthcare system, so the family had to go to St. John's along with stocking up on 3 of everything.
We had to get 3 cribs, 3 of everything. But we ended up we couldn't have them here because we don't have a NICU or anything in Labrador. So I had to go to St. John's when I became 21 weeks. So we left here in June and I moved to St. John's in an apartment for 5 months.
Newman isn't the first family in Labrador West to have triplets. Almost 20 years ago, there was another set of triplets. And this Christmas, the new triplets got to meet the grown-up triplets, giving Newman some peace of mind.
Yeah. It was just like, if she could do it, I could do it.
Did they talk about what it's like to grow up as one of the triplets?
Yeah, they said it was like a cool experience, just having each other all the time. So I think it'll be neat for them, 3 of them, to go through school together.
But before they get to school, they need to get through the night.
Well, my husband and I are sleeping in shifts. Oh, it's insane. Like, you feel like you have to be an octopus and have like a million arms. Like, if there's 1 crying, there's 2 crying, there's 3 crying, and then the little guy's asking for a snack.
They're not alone. The community of Labrador West has rallied around by dropping off food and offering babysitting. And of course, there's their older brother Charlie, who sings to them and is learning to count siblings.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, that's great.
3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
Not enough snow to even make a snowball. Kids and snow go hand in hand, but on the Northeast Avalon, there's barely any snow so far this winter. So what are kids doing to have fun when they get outside? Their answers are next.
Well, if they want more snow, they're going to be happy through the weekend, it looks like. But first, we're going to talk about these temperatures. Wind chill values, pretty cold. They're headed to the Avalon as well. We'll get into the details coming up.
Okay, well, before we get to your forecast, let's talk about snow. There's not a whole lot of it, at least in the east, so far this winter.
No, not yet anyway, but the CBC's Amanda Gear headed to St. Andrews Elementary in St. John's to ask grade ones, what is your favorite part about playing in the snow? And how do you have fun outdoors when there is no snow? Have a look.
What's your favorite thing to do when there's not very much snow?
Skating with ice. My favorite thing in the snow is to build snowballs. Maybe take some snow and maybe there's a hill that has no snow on it, but not much, and then you could put more snow on it to make it slippery. I just go make a snowman and make snow angels.
How can we make a snowman and snow angels when there's no snow?
Maybe I can make them out of sand.
What's your guys' favorite activities to do when there's lots of snow?
Go sleighing. I like sleighing. Snowballs. One time I went in a very big hill and I went sleighing there. Or roll down hills. Make snowmen to make snowballs.
Oh, nice. And what's your favorite thing to do outside when there's no snow?
Play hide and seek.
So you like it better when there's a lot of snow or a little snow?
A lot of snow.
A lot. It's so much fun, isn't it? Do you like a lot of snow or a little bit of snow in the winter?
A lot.
Lots and lots. What do you like to do when there's lots and lots of snow?
I want a snowman.
Do you guys like it when it snows or when it doesn't snow?
Snows.
What are your favorite activities to do in the snow?
Snow angel. Skating.
And what are your favorite things to do when there's snow?
Build a snowman.
How are we going to build a snowman with not very much snow?
We can make a small snowman. When there's a tiny bit of snow, we can make it work.
That's right. That's a good attitude.
I'll never get up, and I'm always gonna believe my dreams.
We're gonna make it work.
Oh my goodness.
I love
amazing.
the little tiny snowman that they're trying to make there and send angels.
You always got to be positive when it comes to the weather.
That's right, especially in this province.
Yes, that's the only way to get through.
And on a positive note, are they going to get the snow that they want so much?
They're going to be very happy. It looks like this weekend we are in for some snow now. If it's not quite sure if it's going to be perfect snowman making snow, but definitely a little bit, but much warmer today.
Yes.
Out there. In fact, sitting about 4 degrees warmer than it was yesterday. Let's take a look at those numbers across the board. So this is the 24-hour temperature change. Look, that 2 to 6 degrees across the island, warmer than it was yesterday this time. St. Anthony, you're at the same, but a big drop in temperatures up across the Big Land. 16 degrees colder in Lab City today. There was your temperature this afternoon, -10, -5 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, but above zero for most across the island. About 1 degree is where we sat in Gander earlier today. That's where we are right now as well. We've got temperatures into the -20s across Lab West and then -teens for the rest of the Big Land. But again, those temperatures above zero at the moment across the island, and that means that we have some wet pavement at the moment. So as temperatures drop, which they will, as we head through the overnight tonight, things will likely get a bit icy. So definitely keep that in mind. If you're heading out, you may want to throw down a little bit of salt, because look at this. This is where we're headed tonight, down to -13 in Gander. That is 14-degree difference from where you're sitting right now, and the winds will be a bit brisk out there as well, with those northwesterlies between 40 to about 50 kilometers per hour. Those temperatures up across the Big Land as well. Pretty chilly, -24 tonight in Lab City, -17 in Nain, with those winds around 100 kilometers per hour. So Environment Canada has issued a wind warning for tonight through to tomorrow morning. Expect those winds gusting between 80 and 100 kilometers per hour, likely in those exposed areas. But talking about the temperature around -17, factor in that wind chill. It'll feel more like -34 overnight. And just taking a look at the outlook tonight, as far as that wind chill is concerned up across the Big Land, you're looking at those wind chills into the -30s pretty much across the board, mid-20s, mid-30s. But as the temperatures drop tonight across the island as well, we're looking at wind chill values into the -teens. So expect by the time we get into tomorrow morning, when you're headed out the door, it's going to be very chilly, feel very chilly into the minus teens. So make sure you're bundling up as you're headed out. As far as the future tracker goes, we're going to sit under a big ridge of high pressure, and that means things are generally going to quiet down. It was a fairly quiet day today. We did see a few showers in the mix in some areas, but as we head through the night tonight, that cold front, that Arctic cold front will move through, allowing that air to move in, changing those winds to northwesterlies. And that's when we'll see that cold air move in. So otherwise, not really a whole lot happening weather-wise. We may see a few flurries lingering on the west coast, but overall the activity will quiet down. And then as we head into tomorrow, as that cold air takes hold and continues, we will see some sunshine, maybe a bit of cloud cover again on the west coast, maybe a few flurries, but overall very quiet. Those clouds will be on the increase, though, as we head through the evening hours into your Friday morning, and that's as our next system moves in, and that's what will bring that snow. There's still a bit of disagreement, but we will chat about that a little bit later. As far as the temperatures go for tomorrow, there you go, -6, -7, a little warmer along the southern areas of the Avalon, but again, those breezy northwest winds between 30 and 50 kilometers per hour. You may see a few flurries in the morning, but then that should clear with some sunshine, plenty of sunshine as the day goes on. -5 to -7 through central. And then the west coast, you're looking at similar temperatures as far as that's concerned. Northern Peninsula, you're looking at your temperatures hovering in and around the -11 to -12 degree range. Winds a bit more brisk for you. So again, those wind chill values into the -20s for a good chunk of tomorrow afternoon, but the sunshine should feel fairly nice. And then as far as the rest of Labrador goes, the wind warning should end for you in Nain by morning. The winds will drop below warning criteria, but it is still going to stay brisk, around -15 for your daytime high in Nain, and Lab City you'll hover around -18. Don't be surprised to see a few flurries in the mix. Otherwise, sunshine for the rest of you across the Big Land. Now, like I said, that snow will move in tomorrow. The track very much, or the snowfall amounts very much let me try that again. Snowfall amounts will depend on the track, and we'll talk about that a little later.
Welcome to Bumblebee Bite Inn and Brewery.
Well, coming up, we take you down the road to the rural community of Pilley's Island and see what the buzz is about a business with a catchy name. Canada will face off against the U.S. tonight in the semifinals at the World Junior Hockey Championships. Of course, Newfoundland's Zach Dean will be lacing up. The team won a wild overtime game against Slovakia on Monday in the quarterfinals, while the Americans crushed Germany. The CBC's Paul Palmer has this look ahead to tonight's big game at the Scotiabank Centre.
Stolen by Stankoven. In for Bedard. Here he comes. Scores!
The call of a Connor Bedard goal has been heard a lot over the last week. Shutting him down will be a tough task for the Americans, but it's their top priority.
I mean, honestly, we have a plan in place, but we're not going to, at this point, share that with the media. I appreciate you asking the question.
In Monday night's quarterfinal game, Slovakia played Bedard as physical as possible, but he still scored 2 goals, including this now legendary game winner. He says he'll be ready for whatever the Americans throw at him.
I mean, it's hockey. I mean, it's not like I haven't been hit before or anything, so it's part of the game, and I didn't really think too much of it.
The Americans have a highly skilled team and pounded Germany 11-1 in the quarterfinals. Luke Hughes is one of their top players. He's a college teammate of Canadian forward Adam Fantilli at the University of Michigan, and he can't wait for the puck to drop.
Scoring a goal in a barn like this with everybody cheering against you will definitely get your spidey senses tingling a little bit. It just gets me fired up right now, so it'll be fun.
Canada has leaned heavily on Bedard, who has a tournament-leading 21 points in just 5 games. While he has been head and shoulders better than any other player, he's gelled well with his line mates.
He's had a lot of help and support from his teammates on that, and he'll be the first to tell you that, off it. And at the end of the day, he set up some great goals, but you still need players to finish those off. And the power play's clicking not just because of one guy, because of 5 guys out there.
The crowd should give the Canadian team a boost. The players are excited to get going.
It's going to be rocking. I mean, you saw it last game we were playing Slovakia. I don't think I've ever seen a crowd like that, so the atmosphere is going to be amazing.
The last time Canada played the U.S. at the World Juniors was 2 years ago, when the Americans beat them in the gold medal game played in Edmonton. Paul Palmer, CBC News, Halifax.
Bunks, brews, and bites. That's what they're serving up at Bumblebee Bite Inn and Brewery in Pilley's Island. A craft beer craze has swept the province in recent years, with breweries cropping up in even the quietest of corners. CBC video producer Curtis Hicks visited Green Bay South for a tour of Bumblebee Bite.
Welcome to Bumblebee Bite.
We've been open since August of 2020, and we purchased this old building that had been sitting here, and every time I drove by the bloody place, I used to kind of say to myself, somebody should do something. That building is gorgeous, and it could use a facelift, and I was the foolish man to kind of say, something's got to be done, and I did it. So our saying is, bunks, brews, bites by, right? So we got bunks upstairs, we got brews on tap, and we got bites in the oven, right? We've got 8 taps in the brew house. We've got kind of a traditional lager all the way to some sours that people like. We try and use local ingredients in terms of berries and that for the sours. We do have some local hops that we've used in a few of our beers. And we make traditional Italian-style pizzas here.
Come on, come on! Is almost back?
One thing that I believe, pizza and beer, they're kind of like, they belong together.
I'm Chef Rashid, I'm here at Bumblebee Bay. I want to make a pizza right now. Some cheese, some bacon, yeah, with some sausage.
But it's a dual-fueled propane wood-fired pizza oven, quite large. And then the other thing that we do here is try and utilize what we can locally. I think we've done really well, and we hope to continue to do that going into the future.
I am
from Johnson City, Tennessee. I actually stumbled upon the Bumblebee Brewery because I just typed in my phone things to see and saw a brewery, and one of the big things for Americans is we like to go to the breweries and try the different beers. And so when I saw this, I figured if I traveled over here, I'd find some good beer, some people to meet, and things to see. Rooms are amazing, very spacious, very comfortable bed. The views, can't beat those. People are great downstairs, so I mean, you got a nice place to sleep, good food to eat downstairs, and good beer to drink.
The brewery has brought in a lot of people that seek out craft beer. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for customers, right? So getting out here to see the beauty and at the same time, receive the hospitality that we can get, it just helps us be successful, and at the end it helps us grow. Ultimately, what I would say success would be is to see a net migration to the area of people that want to live here and make this their home. That to me would be success. So, Shamo!
Well, still to come, what's powering all the renewed interest in vintage video game consoles? Some games are more popular now than they were back in the day. the funeral for slain Ontario Provincial Police Constable Grzegorz Pershawa was held in Barrie, Ontario today. The 28-year-old officer was killed in the line of duty on December 27th, 2 days after Christmas. Ontario Premier Doug Ford spoke about the sacrifice officers make, providing safety and ensuring freedom for the public. Some members of Pershawa's family also spoke at the funeral. Several hundred officers lined the procession route in the pouring rain. Hundreds of police officers and emergency service personnel filled the arena to pay their respects. Well, it's the last day of public viewing for Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Thousands of people have come to the Vatican to pay their respects ahead of tomorrow's funeral. Katie Nicholson is in Vatican City.
This is the final day of visitation for Pope Benedict, who is lying in repose at St. Peter's Basilica. Over the last 2 days, 135,000 people have moved through the Basilica. Today, we've been speaking with Canadian clergy who are here for the funeral tomorrow, including Cardinal Collins from Toronto, really speaking about Pope Benedict's legacy. Cardinal Collins pointing out that Benedict was the first pope to sit down with Indigenous people and begin discussions about the impact of residential schools. He also pointed out that this was a pope who was at the helm during a time the church was being rocked by multiple sexual abuse scandals. And Cardinal Collins says that Pope Benedict maybe doesn't get enough credit for how much work he did taking the church through those scandals.
I think it was a surprise to him when he went from being a professor in the classroom of the library and suddenly he became bishop of an enormous diocese. So I think it took him a while to kind of get an understanding of the gravity of the situation, but he did very quickly. And once he came to be the Congregation of Doctrine of the Faith, he put in place tougher laws and centralized the dealing with these issues. But not just that, not just laws. You have laws in the book that don't mean anything. But he implemented them. He booted out of the priesthood hundreds of unworthy priests who should never have been ordained.
Collins points out that it was Pope Benedict who was the first pope to sit down face to face with survivors of sexual abuse and begin that dialogue as well. Now, today we also heard from Pope Francis, who had a general audience this morning. He again spoke glowingly about his predecessor, who he described as a great teacher of Catholic doctrine. We can expect more of that praise tomorrow at the funeral as Pope Francis presides over the funeral of his predecessor. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Vatican City.
Well, 2 days of voting have still left the U.S. Congress without a speaker in the House of Representatives. The lawmakers went into their 6th round of balloting late this afternoon. Divisions inside the Republican Party have stymied the process.
A speaker has not been elected. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida rise?
Senior Republican Kevin McCarthy has been unable to get the 218 votes he needs to secure the position. He's opposed by an extremely small extremely right-wing group within the party known as the Freedom Caucus. Government business in the U.S. will remain at a standstill until a speaker is elected. This is the first time in 100 years the House has not been able to elect a speaker on the first ballot. The World Health Organization is expressing more concerns about surging COVID-19 cases in China.
We continue to ask China for more rapid, regular, reliable data on hospitalizations and deaths, as well as more comprehensive real-time viral sequencing.
The UN agency says hospitalizations and deaths due to COVID-19 are likely far higher than what Beijing is reporting. Officials expressed concern about the risk to life in China. Questions about the reliability of China's data have grown since the country reversed its zero COVID policy last month. The WHO will meet tomorrow with Chinese scientists as part of a wider briefing among member states on the global COVID-19 situation. Well, skating on an outdoor rink, it's a quintessential Canadian image and experience, but climate change is no friend of the tradition. And at a certain point, warmer winters mean fewer days on the ice. Montreal is one place already feeling the heat. The CBC's Kwabena Oduro reports.
It's been a busy couple of weeks at this refrigerated rink in downtown Montreal. That's because it's one of the only rinks operational, and that is drawing people in from outside the city.
There's no outdoor rinks in Laval where I am, so I had to drive all the way here, 30-minute drive, just to skate.
Some as far as Repentigny.
I'm kind of upset because it's like really far, but I don't mind because I'm with my friends, so it's fine.
Across Montreal, the poor weather conditions mean most rinks have been reduced to mud or puddles.
When you have young kids, if you're an immigrant and you just want to learn to skate to become part of Canadian society, outdoor rinks are really a great stepping stone.
Jonathan Brunn created the website Patiner Montreal to inform people what rinks are open as well as their conditions.
But even there's a limit. Most of the refrigerated rinks are actually still closed because it's been just so warm in the last week.
The fate of Montreal's ice rinks inspired Mitchell Decow when writing his graduate thesis on the effects of climate change. He says CO2 emissions are to blame.
Right now we emit about 40 billion tons a year globally. So until we stabilize temperature by bringing our CO2 emissions to zero, the ice skating season will continue to decline every year.
The city of Montreal says that outdoor rinks are a priority, and that's why it's investing more in refrigerated ones like this one at Esplanade Tranquille, which opened up this winter.
Even at the amount of global warming that we've already observed, we're still going to have skating days this season, but will we have something like 20 skating days compared to something like 40, which we've seen in the past couple of years as the average? Who knows?
Something people at Esplanade Tranquille want so they don't have to travel into the city just to skate outdoors. Kwabena Oduro, CBC News, Montreal.
The power of nostalgia is driving up sales of vintage video games, and some retro games are now more popular than back when they were first released. The CBC's Matthew Moore brushed the dust off some old consoles to press start on this story.
Vintage is back in style, and in a big way. Consoles like the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Game Boy are becoming increasingly more popular.
While parents at the time may have rolled their eyes and considered these games to be time wasters, now they're considered art, alongside movies and music.
Because the limitation bred the artistry, the creativity, and so there's just something about like the old games that even though we are the old men and women being like, watch Gone with the Wind instead. It's like, play Mega Man 2. They have that appeal.
Chen points to the style of games made in the late 80s and early 90s. When I was a kid, rushing back to the family room on a Saturday morning to play video games. These games, at the time, were state-of-the-art. So much so that today's developers are inspired by their own nostalgia to create that classic look. One of the most popular games being played today came out in 1984, a couple years before my time even, and it has a huge online presence for gamers.
Tetris is my favorite video game of all time, right? Like, I talked about art and all this kind of stuff. Like I think Tetris is perfect art. Like, that game is art. I think it's the perfect video game ever made.
Chen commentates on game streams. That's live online events where thousands tune in to watch other people play video games. The classic Tetris World Championships takes place every fall in the United States. And the 2018 final has 18 million views on YouTube. Streaming does help bring these games to new eyes, but Chen says nostalgia plays a pretty big role. The deck box in Halifax is feeling the surge of interest as they struggle to keep things in stock. It started as a trading card store, but began selling games and consoles after customers showed an interest.
I think it's one of those things where it's you know, a lot of people have very distinctive memories tied to games, and whatever hits someone in that right spot. Things like Mario is an eternal favorite because it's got such a great core gameplay loop, and it's still accessible. But there are some games that are still classics because they have such a engaging story or such a core gameplay loop that just kind of grabs you.
And many games and consoles are fetching top dollar, like this game, Doom 64. Mint condition in package, it's listed for $1,000. For many, these games are a portal to the good old days.
Graphics are not everything. Story does a lot to carry a game, and there are a lot of awesome gaming experiences out there that are either sort of like forgotten or overlooked because of the rush to the new. But there are some real awesome games out there that are timeless.
It's as the old saying goes, everything that's old is new again. Matthew Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
All right, time for the weather. You mentioned earlier as we head into the weekend that there's the potential for some snow.
There is, and we haven't been talking a whole lot about snow over the last couple of months. Well, here on the Avalon anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's take a look at what's going to happen, because the ridge of high pressure is dominating the weather tomorrow, and that will continue up across Labrador at least through Friday afternoon. But area of low pressure is going to pass south of the island, and that means that we will see some colder air. All that cold air tomorrow definitely in play. So what does fall should fall as snow. But as I've been talking about, there's not a whole lot of agreement on just how much snow is going to fall. So as this low passes south, we'll see that snow likely develop tomorrow afternoon, late day, and then continue through the overnight hours on Friday, likely staying just cloudy through central, the west coast, and up across Labrador as well. But these cooler temperatures are going to stick around. So into the minus single digits again for your Friday, minus double digits up across Labrador, somewhere between minus 12 and minus 18, coldest in the west. And you're also looking at that chance of some flurries returning again through the day. Now, this will continue. The potential for snow will continue again Friday evening into Saturday as another round moves in. And this one looks like it'll start to affect central, the west coast, and along the south coast of the island through the afternoon on Saturday. Up across Labrador, you're looking also at the chance of some flurries, especially in the west. That will head towards central Labrador as we head through the afternoon hours on Saturday. And then again for coastal areas. Now this should move through, but we're into that onshore flow again into Saturday evening for eastern Newfoundland, but that will move through as we head into the evening hours. Now temperatures again will be below zero, talking about between -1 and about -5 for the island, and then up across Labrador, moderating slightly towards the coast, -9 for those of you in Cartwright, but otherwise somewhere between -11 and -15. So how much snow are we talking about? It's still, like I said, some disagreement, but we're probably talking more than 5, but less than 10, it looks like at this point. Some areas may see a little bit more than that, but definitely going to iron that out for you as we go through time. Now, as far as the 5-day forecast goes, it's going to be below zero. It looks like right into Sunday and Monday, with some sunshine returning by then. And then we are also looking at some sunshine for central Newfoundland. Temperatures right across the board below zero, dipping into the minus teens in central Newfoundland overnight. And then for eastern Labrador, you're looking at some sunshine for your Sunday and Monday. Temperatures well below zero and into the minus 20s for western Labrador as we see those flurries on your Monday. Around -18, but temperatures are potentially going to warm up.
Ooh, that looks cold,
right? But it looks beautiful. This is exactly the type of winter weather you want to enjoy it. This is Cobb's Pond in Gander. Gary shared this great shot with us, and if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to my Facebook page, Twitter, or email them at nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, I bet that snow is like squeaky snow.
Probably
you know, when it's so cold, you step on it and it kind of squeaks.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
All right. Well, that's it for us for this show this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Hope you can join us again tomorrow night.
Good night.